And she also recruited me at Google.
Absolutely. I use a lot of job boards, my favorite one being LinkedIn.
There's a platform called Naukri.com. Do you use that also?
Because honestly, it doesn't really matter about the CGPA, right? Because
employees directly applying to the portal versus an employee who's getting a referral. So is there a priority? Like who would you choose first? मैंने referral भी लेके देख लिया, मैंने directly apply करके भी देख लिया, लेकिन हमारा resume shortlist ही नहीं हो रहा है.
Yeah.
So what makes a resume stand out? What do you think about DSA? Is DSA important? Because we are talking about technical recruitment.
You know, looking out for a job or how a recruiter can look for, the potential candidates. I think LinkedIn responds very well when right filtering is used.
ठीक है झूम, तो नेक्स्ट बर्निंग क्वेश्चन ये है कि क्योंकि AI आ चुका है और बहुत लोगों को लगता है कि उसके वजह से जॉब्स इम्पैक्ट हुए हैं और काफ़ी ज़्यादा होने वाले हैं. सो व्हाट डू यू थिंक AI गोना ईट अप ऑल द जॉब्स इन द मार्केट? Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode. So today we have Jhoom with us, who has 7 years of experience as a technical recruiter and worked with companies like IBM, Ola Cabs, and currently working with Google. So we have a lot of questions to ask regarding resume, shortlisting, CGPA, college. So Jhoom, start karte hain with a short introduction of yours.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me here, Fraz. And my name is Jhoom Chaudhary, and I come with 7+ years of technical, recruitment, with now working as a technical staffer with Google India.
Yeah, and she also recruited me at Google.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Jhoom, let us start with the first question.
Please.
So सबसे पहले तो explain us कि what is the general process of recruitment?
Sure. So in general, right, recruitment is very challenging, right? And the most important challenging part of the whole journey is finding the relevant talent, at the right time for the right role. Plus, stakeholder management becomes very important as I, move ahead with, making sure that I'm following up with steps, right? So, like me, any other recruiter would generally follow those 5 different, steps. And it begins with, the opening a headcount. Okay. So either it could be like a single headcount or probably a multiple one, right?
Headcount
so sometimes
means the number of people that you...
Yeah, this, headcounts is basically the vacancies.
Vacancies,
right?
Okay.
So what happens is I go about and look for the needed skills, which are almost needed to be immediately onboarded, or something that the hiring manager thinks that ki yaar shayad, in the future, these are some of the skills that can get very important.
Okay.
So that is also I look at. Next is screening the applications, right?
Okay.
So yahan pe what I do is I make sure that the, the preferred skills and the required skills, like they pretty much aligned, because most of the hiring managers, they really give importance to these, right?
Got it.
So what I do is I check out the resumes and look for, people who can talk about their expertise,
okay,
as well as the gravitas that they have for the role,
okay,
right? And I use a lot of job boards, my favorite one being LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
And of course Twitter as well, which is now called X. But I use GitHub, Stack Overflow, and दूसरी चीज़ें जैसे employee referrals, where I look for the existing employees to kind of refer someone.
All right.
So these are some of the things, and later this third step could be selecting or rather interviewing the candidates, the shortlisted ones, right? So that is the time where there is end-to-end engagement, and the networking really plays like an important part of the cycle. And fourth and fifth step is more to do with selecting the candidate basis on the performance, okay, interview performance, and then making the offer to them just to make sure that they choose you as the next employer.
Awesome. So you also mentioned different platforms from where you recruit, right? There's a platform called Naukri.com. Do you use that also?
I, as a recruiter, not really a big fan of Indeed or Naukri or even Monster.
Okay.
My go-to has always been LinkedIn, right?
And is there a difference between, let's say, if a employee is directly applying to the portal versus an employee who's getting a referral? So is there a priority? Like, who would you choose first?
Yes, of course. The priority has always been the employee referrals because they've already been in touch with that person, maybe closely worked with them, right? So since they already know them, right? So that goes as a priority for sure.
Awesome. तो यार वीडियो में आगे बढ़ने से पहले लेट्स टॉक अबाउट क्रायो. So Cryo is world's first experiential learning and upskilling platform for aspiring software developers. So Cryo follows learn by doing approach. अब ये learn by doing approach क्या है? So you learn while working on projects, real world projects, just like building applications similar to Amazon, Netflix, Swiggy, and scaling them up. तो इन प्रोजेक्ट्स पे काम करते करते यू लर्न. अब इन प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में और डिटेल करिकुलम के बारे में हम लोग बात करेंगे, बट बिफोर दैट यू ऑल्सो गेट अ वेरी गुड मेंटर सपोर्ट एट क्रायो. एंड दीज मेंटर्स आर प्रोफेशनल्स वर्किंग इन कंपनीज लाइक माइक्रोसॉफ्ट, Amazon, स्विगी, पेपैल एंड अदर टेक जाइंट्स. तो इनसे आपको ना काफ़ी डिटेल्ड इंसाइट्स मिलेंगी कि एक रियल डेवलपर एनवायरनमेंट में कैसे काम किया जाता है. सेकंड थिंग इज क्रायो ऑफर्स एक्सक्लूसिव करियर असिस्टेंस एंड दे हेल्प यू बिल्ड अ वेरीफाइड GitHub portfolio, which is definitely going to help you in your placements. So now let's talk about fellowship program in software development. तो यहाँ पर आपके दो ट्रैक्स हैं. वन इज बैक एंड, द अदर ट्रैक इज फुल स्टैक. यू कैन चूज आइदर ऑफ दीज ट्रैक्स अकॉर्डिंग टू योर इंटरेस्ट. एंड अगेन एज आई टोल्ड यू, यू विल बी लर्निंग अलॉन्ग विद द प्रोजेक्ट्स. तो प्रोजेक्ट करते करते आप लोग CS फंडामेंटल्स एंड डेवलपर फंडामेंटल्स सीखेंगे. देन यू विल बी वर्किंग ऑन सम ऑसम प्रोजेक्ट्स. ऑल्सो मोस्ट ऑफ यू मस्ट बी प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर इंटरव्यूज एज वेल. तो यहाँ पर आपको ना एक डिटेल्ड करिकुलम मिल जाएगा विच विल कवर योर डेटा स्ट्रक्चर्स एंड एल्गोरिथम एंड सिस्टम डिजाइन फॉर इंटरव्यूज. अब यार सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज, इन दिस प्रोग्राम क्रायो ऑफर्स जॉब गारंटी by job search support, referrals, and career guidance by experienced coaches. Cryo is also trusted and recognized by NSDC, which is an entity of Government of India. बाकी आपके फ्री ट्रायल का लिंक डिस्क्रिप्शन में है. डेफिनेटली गो एंड बुक. और अब हम लोग वीडियो में आगे बढ़ते हैं. सो अ लॉट ऑफ माई ऑडियंस इज कॉलेज गोइंग ऑडियंस.
Okay.
So I want to ask about the CGPA thing. That is CGPA important? How important is it? And किसी किसी का जो 12th का परसेंटेज होता है, 10th का परसेंटेज होता है, वो भी थोड़ा सा कम होता है, like 60%, 50%. So वो क्या मैटर करता है?
Yeah, question is tricky, right? Because honestly, it doesn't really matter about the CGPA, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're highly scoring, on competitive platforms, which are like so many available on internet nowadays.
Correct.
I mean, if I have to name some, it could be Lead Code, for example, LC that we call, right?
Yeah.
Then you have Code Chef, Code Forces, and HackerRank, and so many out there, right? But really what makes it important is for candidates, or rather students who are doing on-campus placements, right? Because any, FAANG companies or, great product startups, they do have some cutoff, before they actually selecting a college, be it IITs, NIITs, BITS, to actually making their visits.
Yes, मतलब इतने सारे स्टूडेंट्स हैं कॉलेज में, सबका तो इंटरव्यू नहीं ले सकते हैं. Right?
Exactly. So एक, cutoff definitely रहता है. And but of course, students who want to go outside the campus and look out for the job opportunities, it's more to do with how well they are performing during those competitive, challenges and competitions, before getting shortlisted and thereby landing into a job.
All right.
So yeah.
Okay. So the next most frequently asked question is कि resume shortlist नहीं हो रहा. मतलब a lot of people have been complaining about कि मैंने referral भी लेके देख लिया, मैंने directly apply करके भी देख लिया, लेकिन हमारा resume shortlist ही नहीं हो रहा है.
Yeah.
So what makes a resume stand out? कैसे अपना अलग बनाया जाए resume?
Right. Actually, that's a good point, but I recollect one of the resume shortlisting videos which you had done, and I think it's very, very informative, very amazing for a fact that it covers a lot of important details, right? Like, you've talked about how to keep it clean, how to keep it concise, how to keep it very consistent, right? So there is a resume template that a lot of job seekers can kind of edit and use before applying.
Correct.
So also it covers like why crafting a resume becomes like so important, within that 1 or 2 pages, right? Plus you've talked about those 7 different sections of the resume itself. So I think it's very important for someone to try to make a resume in such a way. It's a very logical progression, so that it covers the overview of your career journey.
Okay. Great. So I think you can check out my video because June is referring for that same video which I created.
Absolutely, absolutely. So whoever is like listening to this podcast, do check out the link in the description box below.
Awesome. So June, the next question is कि इंडिया में बहुत सारे tiers होते हैं कॉलेज के. Tier 1 IITs, Tier 2 NITs and NSIT and all. Then Tier 3 जो कि majority है. So, do you give priority to these tiers while recruiting?
If your question is like, does a tier 3, student can make it to FAANG organizations? The answer would be yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, let's suppose I have a resume in front of me, and the first section of the resume talks about, the education. Yeah. And it tells like, okay, it's a University of Chhattisgarh, or probably a college, a college which is based out of Sonipat, Haryana, right? Okay. I don't stop there, right? I go down the resume and look at what are the other, aspects of the resume. So maybe let's say, for example, the candidate started with an internship with Amazon and did like a couple of years with Microsoft. And let's say before joining Google, right? The person, spent about, let's say 2 to 3 years with Twitter. Bingo. Right? So, I mean, these are some of the resumes that we're always with the, on the lookout, and definitely circling back to the, resume shortlisting video. I think you've, called out that thing so nicely that, a resume should have something that stands out to actually see the light of the day.
Actually, I got to know this from you only when we were talking about it. So, there should be at least one thing which makes it stand out.
Absolutely.
Or we're gonna talk about freshers as well. एक question है मेरे पास which I'll be asking about freshers.
Sure.
But before going to that, what do you think about DSA? Is DSA important? Because we are talking about technical recruitment.
Right. So I love it. Okay. And I also know that this question has been asked to me like from the last 7+ years of my technical recruitment. DSA, of course, is, very fundamentals to computer science and software engineering. And anybody who wants to kind of make a career or break into, the tech industry, right? A strong grasp of, data structures and algorithms becomes so important, right? And also you would see that a lot of topics of these, right, are a part of, the technical interviews as well, which, becomes like the deciding factor for the candidate.
Correct.
Right. So definitely, I mean, DSA, because I can relate to the fact that, whenever I've pitched into a candidate, right, I get that sense of, the curiosity building up. कि यार अब तो बता दे, DSA is like a part of the interview process, right? So I can relate, so well to that feeling कि यार किसी को, that famous quote that I can remember कि, you give someone a program, you'll frustrate them for a day, and you teach them how to program, you'll frustrate them for a lifetime. So I would say don't trade your DSA practice for any worldly pleasures. It's only going to hurt.
Okay. एक जॉब मिलने के बाद भी DSA कंटिन्यू रखना.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So the next important question is कि एक फ्रेशर कैसे स्टैंड आउट कर सकता है? Because now the thing is कि चलो मान लेते हैं कि किसी का JEE में अच्छा स्कोर नहीं आया, वो Tier 3 कॉलेज में है. So how can he make his resume stand out from rest of others, and what all skills that person should work on?
So my experience has been with, startups as well as, with product companies as well. Now, I know that a lot of, new grads or, students who are still graduating do reach out to me over LinkedIn because like I mentioned to you, like LinkedIn is something that is, a favorite tool of mine. So when they reach out to me, they clearly, put it out like these are my notable achievements, right? And they say expert on code forces with 1,600 questions solved. Or, I'm a geeky coder on Lead Code, right? And I've solved like 1,800 questions solved. Or maybe I'm a 4-star coder, on code forces. So these are some of the things that they generally, like to put it out in the resume. And kai baar to I've seen like, students do call out ki, my problem solving skills have been honed through a lot of aggressive, practicing on data structures and algorithms. But apart from this, if they think that, they are a mean developer, please go ahead and add it, right? If they've done internships with 2 to 3, companies, put it out as, like probably with the roles and the titles that you've worked with. Because I think, when you reach out to a recruiter, these buzzwords, right, can really make a very attractive reach.
Correct. The ratings or the internships that you have done, right? Or maybe the hackathons in which you have participated.
Absolutely,
awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, Jhum. So sometimes people have gaps in their careers because of any reason. So क्या उनको impact create होगा while getting the resume shortlisted because of these gaps, और उसको justify कैसे करेंगे?
So, see, profile ideally should have a very uninterrupted employment history. But there are gaps for valid reasons.
Correct.
Right? And like I mentioned to you, LinkedIn, right? So, मैं काफ़ी बार देखती हूँ कि उनकी profile में it's pretty much mentioned कि, sabbatical break, okay? Or probably career break, Some go ahead and do write parenthood, right, or motherhood, or enjoying travel, right? So I think for us, times have changed, right? And people are so comfortable to put this information out very clearly, right? Even in the resumes, when I screen them, एक बारी एक बंदे ने डाला कि I was away from IT for the last 5 years of my time and called it as an entrepreneur time, right, where he was like figuring out and exploring things and what really he wants to do with his life. So I think what really makes a difference is, whenever you get a call, right, be open about the gap that you have and present it very positively to the other person, right? And if you think that you're still late to the party, then consider yourself, to be a part of the Shark Tank, reality show, jahan pe, you have the sharks of the market and you're pitching yourself to get yourself invested, in the career development. So, yeah.
Alright, Jhum. So, how to efficiently search for jobs? There are different platforms and people don't know how to use them efficiently.
Okay, yeah. I think the answer to this question is, again, one of the platforms that I'm very, very, keen on. And that is, again, LinkedIn. That's one-stop solution for everything. Please note that this is not a paid endorsement, all right? I'm just like a little overwhelmed with the fact that, my profile, or rather I am being, followed with more than 50,000 plus people out there. So really thank you to everyone, right? But I know that this itself is a good signal, right? That people are in the right space.
Correct.
And when you talk about, looking out for a job or how a recruiter can look for, the potential candidates, I think LinkedIn responds very well when right filtering is used.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's suppose, I am a prospective job seeker and I want to say type in software engineering on the bar of LinkedIn. The very first tab that comes in is jobs, right? And then it's like people, you have companies, people, groups and stuff like that. So when you click on the jobs, that's when the actual filtering starts.
Okay.
Whether you're looking for remote opportunities, work from home, hybrid, which location you would want to go. So I think right filtering really fetches great data.
All right. So if we filter it in the right way, we can get the job which you're searching for.
Right.
Okay. To just add a little more on it, can you tell how to reach out to someone on LinkedIn? Because sometimes people simply say hi or hello.
Yeah.
And then even I don't feel like replying to that hi or hello, because if somebody is not willing enough to tell me कि उनको क्या चाहिए and they want कि बंदा पहले reply करे उसके बाद conversation करेंगे. So is there a right way to reach out to you or to anyone on LinkedIn properly?
I think it's LinkedIn in mails that pretty much a lot of them use, and this is for someone who's first timer, right? Like you are not in touch or connected to me over LinkedIn as a platform, but let's suppose you already know me. You just can send out a message on LinkedIn chats. That's pretty much right. But try to keep it very crisp, very short. Short in the sense like, okay, cool. These are your skill sets.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what you're looking for, right? So that really helps me get to that person quickly.
Okay. बाकी झूम की LinkedIn ID मैं नीचे provide कर दूँगा description में. You can go and connect with her.
Absolutely.
And follow the steps definitely.
Sure.
ठीक है झूम, तो next burning question ये है कि क्योंकि AI आ चुका है और बहुत लोगों को लगता है कि उसके वजह से jobs impact हुए हैं और काफ़ी ज़्यादा होने वाले हैं, So what do you think? AI gonna eat up all the jobs in the market?
Artificial intelligence have actually, captured a lot of the current market for the obvious reasons. But or is AI going to eat up jobs? I'm not really sure about that. But it's definitely going to displace the old ones for the new ones. So I think we should be very, very excited about the fact that so much of productivity, so much of efficiency, going to be a part of our lives. So if I can think of, one of the examples, it could be like for the developers now, right? Mm-hmm. They can write such better codes and much faster with AI.
Yeah, correct. Efficiency बढ़ी है उससे.
Exactly.
So, Jhum, I remember that you shortlisted me from my LinkedIn. It was for the first time that Google is reaching out to me.
Right.
So, अपनी profile कैसी बनाई जाए LinkedIn की, so that people like you can reach out to us.
Yeah. So LinkedIn we generally call like LI profiles. So they are like online resumes and professional brands for candidates like you.
Yeah.
So anyone who's kind of making a profile, should definitely have a profile picture with a clear headshot, right? And then try to craft a very attention-seeking, headlines which really make a difference. And not just this, try to have all your companies listed out with keywords, the roles, responsibilities that you have kind of performed, and try to customize your URL, which is typically having a name, in your URL. So that is very, very good. But of course, if you're comfortable, please do add contact details, because a lot of startups, they have budget constraints. So it's easier for the recruiters to reach them out, honestly. And most of them use, those sections like skills, endorsements, recommendations, all in all, right? So, having these things listed pretty much, and when you're regularly maintaining and updating your profile, it'll help you fetch, a wider connection, of network, and help you discover those excellent opportunities and definitely enhance your professional branding.
Yeah. You talked about a section where people put their past experience, right? So how important is the past experience?
Personally, past experience for me is very, very important, because I feel that it fosters one's professional career, as they move up the ladder. Past experience becomes so important, especially when I'm hiring for senior software engineering roles, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's suppose I have to look for, maybe someone who's worked with, building complex solutions, right? Someone who has great, estimations. Someone who are heads down, when reaching out to a project deadline, right? So these things becomes like a checkpoint for me, right? Whether to shortlist that candidate or not, because that's eventually going to help you, right, to grow up, in your, career ladder, to, get promotions, and try to have that career advancements on it, all in all.
Understood. So basically, past experience becomes important when you are hiring for a senior role.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get back to freshers again. अगर किसी ने BCA या MCA या BSc डिग्री करी है, और for that matter, बहुत सारे लोग कॉमर्स के भी कोडिंग करते हैं, right? Commerce and arts, they also come in coding. So क्या उनको equal chance मिलता है?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I have a classic example where, because I have screened tons of resumes in my 7+ years of recruiting life, right? So this was a resume that said education was Bachelorate of Arts. Okay. And this person was working with Grab at that time. And his whole journey was, so beautiful, because it talks so much about, how he learned Python. Not just kind of, having, let's say, trainings from Coursera, Udemy, or maybe he was also a part of so many significant coding challenges within the organization itself, right? So I found not just his resume so immaculate, but also his entire journey, of how he got into software engineering and then actually thrived to be a very, very good engineer. So I think the difference that these profiles create is the willpower, plus the skill power.
Correct.
And And then I called that candidate, I got him interviews, and later he was offered.
Awesome. Also, people from MCA have this doubt ki, is MCA actually equivalent to B.Tech? So will they get a fair chance, like if they have the MCA degree instead of B.Tech degree?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think degrees all in all is almost the same take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So Jhum, let's say I don't have a degree. I have never been to college, but I have skills. I have learned coding by my own.
Okay.
So is there any chance for me to get into FAANG or any other startup?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I would say yes, because I mean, I have seen such resumes as well, right? So I can recollect this one instance where, I was screening the resume and the education section talked about just the school. Okay. So I had a hunch कि शायद बंदे ने college नहीं की है,
right? नहीं किया है.
हाँ, नहीं की है. So I rang up that person and I clearly remember that conversation. So he said that, Jhum, before we actually deep dive into the conversation, I want to bring it up that I'm a college dropout.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm like, sure. And he took another 2 minutes to, tell me that his parents were not from a well-to-do family, and since he was one of the eldest sons, right, he had to take on the home responsibilities way too early in his life, where, money was so important at that point in time for him, right? But when we actually started talking about the role in itself, I was so impressed. He was so narrative in this whole conversation, right? He talked about the KPIs, the mentoring, guiding, plus how comfortable he was with, let's say, I was hiring for a DevOps engineer at that time, right? So he was saying very comfortable with Terraform working, right? And so comfortable with orchestration tools like Dockers and Kubernetes, because he clearly told me about the role in itself, right?
Yeah.
How, comfortable he was in creating APIs for the microservices, then, building these Docker images, and later, managing the Kubernetes for the containers, and creating Jenkins pipeline, CI/CD and all that. So I was so impressed with this relentless enthusiasm of someone really excelling, in that career journey. So that is, if I would have missed out such a talent, it would be like missing on a corner case.
Correct.
Right.
All right. Jhum, a lot of people are also looking for a switch, let's say from a service-based company to a product-based company, or from a support role to SDE role.
Okay.
So what can they do to get them shortlisted in resume shortlisting and then, interviews?
Right. So I think I recently saw one of the resumes and it was epic, I would say. The person started with, system engineer with Infosys.
Okay.
Then moved to TCS as an IT analyst.
Okay.
Later jumped to United Health Groups as a senior data engineering analyst.
Okay.
And now currently is working with Microsoft as a software developer.
Awesome.
Right. So when you look at, such profiles, you know that there are so many talented people, so many hardworking people.
Correct.
Who are trying to set an example in the tech industry. And when I can be wooed with such a resume, anyone would be, right?
Yeah.
But apart from this, Fraz, what I feel, one should, have mentors in life. Mentors for being maybe for professional growth or personal growth, right? Because I personally feel that they are someone who can introduce you to a new, scope of connections and their networks, right? Someone who can kind of motivate you to probably take those, very temporary freelancing, projects where they can enhance their, technology skills much better, or probably motivate you, to do a product by yourself where you are able to gauge the user traction, right? So all in all, I feel that it's very important to have a cumulative, work very well listed, because that resume is going to pay out sometime for you, right? So yes.
Awesome. So अभी हमने पूरे recruitment process की बात कर ली, ऑफर कैसे लेना है उसकी बात कर ली. Now let's talk about negotiations. So
Okay.
any tips on negotiations?
I know. I mean, such a favorite topic, right?
Yeah.
And the best part of hiring itself, because I mean, money is a favorite topic and everyone's want. But honestly, I mean, one can go ahead and be very frank about, you know, let's say talking about the salaries upfront, especially when there's expected numbers, right? It's no red flag for the candidature. And one should be well read about the current market strategies or the current market salaries, right? That's a thumb rule for sure. Don't be too fixated about a random number. Rather, stay very flexible in the whole negotiation conversation for a win-win situation.
Got it. So June, let's move to the final section of the podcast, rapid fire round. I'm going
Sure.
to ask you a few questions. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the first question is skills or degree?
I think it's both, but skills the harsh reality.
Okay. Communication skills or knowledge?
Again, it's both, but knowledge the ultimate power.
All right. So thanks a lot Jhum for being here and sharing this information with us. I hope आप लोगों को भी podcast देख के मज़ा आया होगा. बाकी झूम का जो LinkedIn है वो मैंने description में दे दिया है. You can reach out to her and ask for a referral.
Cool. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
having me.